president, still acting unpresidential. Bitch, I'm in the Bronx with the evil in my residential. It was all emojis, it was never mental. The silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure vented. The times that we living in unprecedented.
Welcome to the Build and Destroy podcast, where we build on what's to come.
Chill.
And we destroy what's done.
Get done.
Smoke some.
Yes, indeed.
So yeah, y'all. It's a lot going on in the world today, man.
It's a whole lot.
Interesting things.
As the world turns.
We might even see the catalyst for a few things to come.
I mean, we are in those times. You know what I'm saying? So no surprises here. And again, the amazement of being prepared. Almost like an umpire. You feel me? You know that the quote, Paul, you know that the ball is coming.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And for the most part, if you get the signal from the pitcher, you kind of even know exactly where it's going to land on the mitt. Right? So that is the beauty of these predictive sciences, to be more adept to the probabilities, as you would say.
Absolutely.
You feel me? So I would be lying to say that certain preparations hasn't prepared us to at least be cognizant that a time like this was approaching. How the chips particularly fall. I think that's where the excitement comes from. You just don't know how exactly it's going to show up, but it's going to show up in the form of change. You know what I'm saying? You said something earlier on a previous podcast about this year being about paying dues, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And certain things catching up to you. As we looking out on social media, we couldn't even see that in the news feed, on the timeline, people's past catching up to them.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Pulling up like an Uber.
Yeah, Tekashi 6ix9ine, man. Interesting situations. I have a few different views on it. I got a street perspective. I got a spiritual perspective.
Yes.
And I got a law perspective. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Three different ones.
Yeah, three angles.
Well, let's hear it.
From the street perspective, back in the 80s and 90s, if you was in the streets or raised in the streets or had uncles or a father or a mother that was in the streets or that understood the code to the streets,
yes.
When it came to snitching, you understand that back then, people used to lose their life.
Stitches.
Like it was serious.
Right.
It was serious. Over the years, things loosened up.
Right.
A lot of the older gangsters passed on. A lot of the older ones that held a code went to the joint for life.
Right.
So it was a lot left out here. And
they took the rules with them?
Absolutely. Larry Hoover. Jeff Ford. Ray Charles Fields out of Dallas. Fat Cat. We could get deep into all of them that used to hold that code where snitching wasn't tolerated.
Right.
But over the years, it very much became tolerated. In fact, a lot of guys, that I knew some guys got out the joint, had, got time cuts, told on people, and the streets embraced them as long as they got money. Jump right back up on them. So it became acceptable.
Right.
And now that we're in this social media age, it's just, people go on, people like Tekashi, people like Charleston White, they glorify it. They glorify the snitching. Charleston White, he has a perspective from a law standpoint and from a cleaning up the black community.
Yeah.
On your law perspective, please.
Yeah.
The law perspective?
Law.
Said that you had a law perspective, and you're a fellow Texan, so I would love to hear yours.
Yeah, so from a law perspective, you touch a federal informant, you going to jail. Right. I don't think that's what people see.
Right.
Yeah, it's all sweet. Oh boy said, I'm gonna be famous. Yeah, you about to be real famous. Because touching a federal informant is almost like touching a police officer. Yeah. Yeah, you can get time.
Smacking a conductor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
It's like shooting a police dog.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You
really,
get that police body on you.
Man, you going so from a law perspective, you know, that's how that's gonna be dealt with. You know. But from a street perspective, man, you know, Tekashi did it. He did it all wrong. He broke the code 100%. You know, from where I'm from, if you selling a piece of penny candy illegally,
right,
you consider to be in the streets. And therefore, the snitching code doesn't apply to you. See, it's a difference in a snitch and a witness. A snitch is trying to get out of something. He's trying not to pay the price for something that he should pay the price for.
Right.
By involving somebody else who didn't get caught.
Right.
And a witness is my grandmother.
Right.
Who pays taxes, who sits on the jury, who goes to church.
Right.
Who looks out for the neighborhood, who's a part of the neighborhood watch. And if she sees somebody breaking the law on her street, she's going to report it. She's not doing anything legal, so she's allowed to do that because she's a witness. But Tekashi tried to get out of something by involving other people in order to get a time cut, and that's what he did. So, you know, there are still some people out here who obey by that old law, and that's what we saw yesterday.
So, I mean, granted, we don't know, you know, the specifics as to why certain things may have happened to that individual. You know, are you saying that these are bad people and bad things happen to bad people? You know, just like energetically, there's a karmic cycle that's going to catch up to a person. So I'm glad you asked that, because, you know, when it comes to karma, I kind of look at karma a little different. It's karma has to deal with your mindset. If your mindset is on whatever I do wrong, it's going to come back to me.
Right.
And whatever I do right is going to come back to me, then that's going to be your reality with karma. But I know people, and I know people who karma don't affect them. Even in the science of the cards, you got 3 cards that have no karma.
Right.
The King of Spades, the Jack of Heart, and the 8 of Clubs.
Okay.
Every other card in the deck is born with one karma card that occupies a high and a low position, or they're born with 2 karma cards, and each one of them, one occupies a high position, one occupies a low position. But there are 3 cards that have stepped off of the wheel of karma. Because that's what karma is. It's a wheel, like Zodiac.
Right.
It just constantly goes around. But there are cards that sit in the middle of that wheel that have, through their experiences and through their mastery, stepped off of the wheel of karma, which means you are the captain of your ship and the master of your soul. Right. So what card is Tekashi? Tekashi is the Jack of Diamond, and he's the 4 of Diamond. He's a Taurus. And the Jack of Diamond is a trickster. He's a jester. Right. You know, he has a gift of gab and a sharp mind. Right. He's great with words. Right. And he's creative. He knows how to get money. Right. You know, however, he sits in the Uranus-Neptune placement in the life spread. And because of that, Uranus causes him to sometimes be unpredictable. Mm-hmm. While Neptune can cause him to be deceptive. So both of his cards have 6s in his life path. See, we all have a life path. The life path is comprised of 13 cards, including the moon card. And that life path is showing you something that you walking. It's showing you that it's already mapped out for you. Well, Tekashi has 6s in his life path, and 6s are karmic numbers. They're Saturn numbers. You know, and the 6 of Clubs, which is in his life path, it sits in the Saturn. It sits in the Saturn position in his life spread. So the shit that he do comes back on him, bro. The stuff that he does, it comes back on him.
Right.
So he has a harder time stepping off the wheel of karma than mostly everybody else. So yes, this is something that came back to correct, to make a correction. You know, in the market, we say when something pulls back or something falls, it's making a correction. And this is making a correction in his life.
Right.
You know,
a reminder that there are consequences to your
Absolutely.
actions and activities. Because he belongs to a very esteemed underclass. And not only is that esteemed underclass, you know, we could say that secret elite is the elite of the snitches, but that esteemed underclass is the trolls.
Absolutely.
That he belongs to.
Absolutely.
You know, he's a masterful troll.
Mm-hmm.
Red, you had an observation on the tale of the trolls. Do you want to take us down that lane real quick?
Yes, I definitely do.
Yeah, just give it a second. You know, we're going to take a commercial break real quick, and then we're going to get right back to that.
Yes, sir.
Silver spoon is under fire, when the pressure bent it. The times that we living in unprecedented. Silver spoon is under fire, when the pressure bent it. The times that we living in unprecedented.
Yeah, so I made a high-level observation.
Yes, sir.
About what I saw taking place over the course of about 24 hours. And it struck me as, you know, something that was in alignment with this Aries moon that we're in. You know?
Yeah.
I call it the trolls paying the New York toll.
Yeah, expound on that.
Trolls always will pay the toll. Okay?
Right.
Troll culture, or what I would call the troll economy, was heightened during the Trump administration.
Facts.
And his doppelganger in the world of entertainment was Tekashi 6ix9ine.
That's a fact as well.
He pushed trolling to the limits of what a 50 Cent or other famous trolls brought it to. He made trolling an art form. He influenced a whole generation of content creators, of YouTube personalities and personas.
Yes.
He spoke for the underdog. He was the one, you know, he was the weird kid who was accepted by the cool guys.
Right,
this is
Beta.
Tekashi 6ix9ine that I'm speaking of.
Yeah.
And when he pushed it to the limits, to the point where he began to put his middle finger and thumb, what we were talking about earlier, as the code. He said, fuck your code. He said, I'm the glitch in the matrix. I'm Wreck-It Ralph. Right? I'm the cipher in this matrix. Y'all let me in, and then I started trolling y'all. I'm the dude with the rainbow hair, with the face, with the 69 on his face, right? I come out of a nihilistic, background. You know, before I was a quote unquote drill rapper, I was into heavy metal and whatnot overseas. Right? I was tapped into nihilism. You know, I had this whole thing about life not meaning anything and, you know, life being meaningless. And then I transferred that with the song Gumbo, right? And if anybody knows the movie Gumbo, that's the movie that they were watching in Belly.
That's right.
And whatnot.
That's
if you know the backstory of why the name of the song and why that movie is important, we're talking about what's the mentality that they represent. So Trump is in the news again. When we know that they're almost quantum entangled. Whenever he pops up, Tekashi pops up, and vice versa. There is a threat. This is where Aries comes in again. There's a threat of war, rumors of war, right?
Yes.
If they go ahead and arrest Donald Trump based off of him committing perjury, I believe, with the Stormy Daniels. Yeah, well, there was
misappropriation.
Yeah, a picture went viral yesterday that was generated by AI.
Yeah,
that had him being locked up, and it was so lifelike that, of course, it began to trigger the Trumpers.
Illicit emotions.
Right, and when those emotions were elicited, they were very. It was like rebel rousing on Twitter, right? Aries energy, right? Troll, but this is the biggest troll, and even him tweeting Hey guys, I'm gonna get locked up tomorrow. Enter Donald Trump back on the stage. Doing what? Trolling again. Right? Trolling his way back to the top.
Right.
He got trolled by Ye and them, and that basically sunk his ship when that destroyed his plans to basically, you know, get in the forefront early in the race. Had to regroup, right? And now we see him here tapping in by utilizing what America is known around the world for, soft power, right? Sympathy. You feel sorry for me, and I'll rouse you up. I'll rile you up. You know what I mean? But I'm the pity me, right? That part. So now on the other end, these are two New Yorkers, mind you, right? Then on the other end of this troll saga, we have Taxstone and Troy Ave making headlines and waves and whatnot. So many different levels of lessons are being, you know,
right?
Man,
Real time. Let's talk about
Taxstone, known for his trolling,
masterful trolling. Yes,
even being one of the fathers of this whole podcast revolution, the urban podcast street revolution.
Shout out to Combat Jack, right?
Combat Jack, Taxstone, right? Taxstone leaning on Troy Ave,
right?
Who other people see as a troll.
Facts.
Right? Powder.
Trolls
right?
after troll, right?
Trolls after trolls, right? Trolls making other trolls pay a toll. Because there was a sense of, you know, y'all gonna take care of me out here in New York. That was that Taxstone energy. I'm tapping pockets. You know what I mean? You know, who outside? And he had the goons with him.
Yeah.
The shooters.
Facts.
At his trial. Allegedly. At his trial, one of his best friends is on the stand pointing fingers, right? Once again, showing you that the code that all of these people abide by.
Right. Got glitches. Blisters.
Doesn't work. Damn, they say when it's 3 times, that's Christ. Jesus.
Yeah. So the code got glitches.
The code has glitches, right? YSL Woody is in a run. I don't think anyone could catch up. He's got Sonic feet in his race of destroying and dismantling. He's Wreck-It Ralph, right? Once again, he's a glitch in that matrix. That code, the slime, slat. That was all the code.
Right.
Algorithms and AI showed you that if the code is not correct, the program will not run. It auto corrects itself, but it will not work. It will not run successfully with a glitch or a bug. Troy Ave was living by a code of a dope boy. Troy Ave was living by a code that he even exemplified on the podcast with Matt Hoffa. What is that? Anybody got a tissue? He exemplified his arrogance.
Right.
When you read the comments, people were just very turned off by the fact that he wasn't able to fess up or live up to anything that he did wrong. We're talking about maturity when you have your children right there with you.
Right. When dude was pressing him about hustling.
Right.
And all of that. And he was a master. He's a master deflector.
Master. Right? Master deflector. And won't live up to the fact that maybe there may have been a part that you may have played in the fate of both you and your friend. Right. By the way you were carrying yourself on where? Social media. Because that's where that beef began to blow up. Mm-hmm. All of these characters are staples in the world of not just social media, right? But this new social media economy, okay? Called the quote-unquote attention economy, right? Where trolling has become very profitable, okay? Where trolling has become almost a job description, right? Started out with Boot Gang, is that your man's name? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Boot Gang in them, perfected. You have the comedians now who do a version of shock therapy or shock comedy, right? Uh-huh. You know, the more outlandish you act. You know, the Lord Power told you about the quote unquote court gesture.
Absolutely.
Making fun of yourself.
Right.
Right? Making a fool of yourself. right? Being as flamboyant and colorful as possible because they've been able to monetize eyeballs. Okay? So it is of no coincidence in a span of about 7 days, we're seeing all of these New York characters, these New York trolls paying a toll.
Right.
Because Troy Ave, he can't stand on that persona anymore. He took the stand and pointed fingers. Taxstone, he's done. They had a wiretap of Casanova 2 times, basically implicating him in the shooting. You know, this is all facts, and we're seeing this lay out. His persona, what he stood on, all of these codes, all of this stuff is being taken away by these trolls who ate at the bridge. Donald Trump ate away at the GOP bridge. He was gnawing, you know what I mean?
Gnawing at the
he
was a mechanized
foundation.
termite destroying the foundation of the bridge of the GOP. Now
Yes.
that foundation is weak.
Right. He was the Wreck-It Ralph of the GOP. Tekashi the Wreck-It Ralph of gang culture, not hip hop. I'm talking about hip hop when it became a gang incubator, right? Everybody from New York. Young and May, right? She's a red side. She's on the red side. Casanova 2 times on the red side, right? Tekashi 6ix9ine on the red side. Pop Smoking them on the blue side.
Right.
Bobby Shmurda them on everything was related in New York.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to take another break, y'all.
Silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure been hit. The times that we living in unprecedented. Silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure been hit. The times that we living in unprecedented.
Yeah, so you know, as you were speaking on the 44 and Mars,
Yes, sir.
it's interesting, man, because Tekashi is 26 and he just entered his 13-year Mars cycle in the Grand Solar Spread.
Right.
You know, we know Mars represents war. It represents what happened to him last night.
Right. It's the head.
Absolutely.
Right. It deals with violence.
Absolutely.
It deals
Absolutely.
with punching and, you know,
Absolutely.
scarification as well of the head area,
Yes.
paws.
Yes. Right.
You know, everything that is Mars, we witnessed it on the Aries new moon by way of Tekashi, he himself, who is a Taurus. So yeah.
Yeah. That's you know, as I was looking at that, man, I noticed you know, he almost made it out of this year because his birthday May 8th. And you know, once a year is once you pass through a year, that's over with.
Right.
You know, you can't
born
time
anew.
travel
Right.
back.
You're born anew.
You know, the mindset is to keep it moving forward. You know,
Right.
a lot of people get stuck holding on to what was when you're not supposed to do that. according to
Which
the
is
call.
right, Aries principle.
Right.
Keep forward progression.
Yeah, that's right. So he's currently in his 52-day Neptune period.
Critical. Right.
Man.
Yeah.
And he got some powerful cards there, represented by some deception. It was definitely a setup.
Yeah.
Definitely. It was that people like, where his security? Hey, don't be surprised if you hear his security set him up.
But that's what they say.
Because Neptune is deception. That's what it does.
That's what
and he
it
had an Ace of Spades present there, which is also which is trouble.
Right.
You know, sitting in that house, and you know, he was traveling. He just happened to be in Florida right then.
Right.
You know, he was traveling, and Neptune represents travel.
Right.
So this all happened in that period to him. And so when you said what you said about the law of 44 in the head area, I
Yes.
wanted you to kind of expound on that.
Oh, again, the number 44 represents Aries. It represents a number that coincides with Mars. And again, it deals with blood, right? Which Aries and Mars are tethered to by way of Mars representing iron representing the main component of the blood. But 44 literally means blood in Hebrew by way of the word dam or dam, as in Damu.
Wow.
And he also is connected to the blood gang.
Wow.
So, yeah, we saw him with a bloody face on social media.
It's powerful.
Mars deals with identity, ego, self-identity, how you see yourself, you know. And for somebody such as him, do we know has a conscientious, you know what I'm saying? You would think that he's very conscientious of his image, but he also wears him, you know, he wears his life, you know,
Yeah.
on the internet.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? For everybody to see inside out. So like he said, the sympathetic factor, you know, somebody that knows they're gonna be so trolled and so castigated for being an op, he also, you know, probably is also weighing the fact that, you know, he could get a sympathetic factor, you know what I'm saying, going with this, with people saying, you know, just like they did, came to his defense. You beating on this kid, but George Zimmerman is still out here.
They everybody
You
going
feel
crazy
me?
with that, and George Zimmerman in Florida.
Yeah, you know what I mean, running around, but you hear thumping out this little kid that's a troll. So yeah, I could definitely bear witness to those 44 correlations and connections in regards to how the energy plays out in this case.
And it's interesting you say that, man, because Mars is connected to Pluto. In fact, in the science of cardology, we say that Pluto is super Mars.
Right.
And in the science, you displace a card every year. If you're one of the 45 cards outside of the King of Spade, the Jack of Heart, the 8 of Clubs, the 7 of Diamond, and the 9 of Heart, if you're any of the other 45 cards, you displace a card every year. And what displacement means is every year you get to live in the shoes of another card.
Right.
So as we know, each card is connected to a date on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us have a card in the deck. So guess what? Sometimes I displace the 6 of Clubs. Sometimes the 6 of Clubs displaces the 8 of Diamond.
Right.
So on the year that you live in the house of that card, you have to deal with the issues of that card.
The energy, right.
It's like you living in somebody else's house. Like if I say blue and red, come stay in my house for a year.
Right.
Guess what? If I got a big old plush crib with surround sound and electronics and food full of a refrigerator full of food,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a wonderful experience.
That part.
Those years are the years when you displace what we call the power cards in the deck.
Right.
But if you came to my house and I had roaches, termites, cat piss so it stinks,
Lord.
dogs running around, birds, guess what? You got to live in them conditions for a year. So you got to deal with what comes with this house. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens when we displace a card. We have to deal with what comes with that card. And so just so happened this year, Tekashi displaced the 2 of Clubs.
What does that mean?
That means that anytime you displace the 2 of Clubs, you got to be prepared for something unexpected and something tragic or disruptive to happen in your life. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because the 2 of Clubs has a 6 of Spade in Pluto. And Pluto represents challenges in our life.
Yes.
And the 6 of Spade is a karmic card sitting in Pluto that can definitely mean harm, death, destruction. Tekashi, lucky, he still got his life.
I said that.
I'm telling y'all, when I seen that, I made a post about it. Tekashi, lucky.
He lucky.
That he still got his life.
Right.
Because it could have been tragic.
Because there was a video the day before that of a shooting at Spring Break.
Wow.
It was the same thing.
Sure
Dude was on the floor.
Yeah.
And homie dumped on him.
I'm talking about empty the clip on him.
And it was like they had the you know, like a camera version, so you just see the light of the flash, the light of them, bro. Same position, right? I'm like,
And he hit him?
yo, huh?
He was hitting them when
What
he was
you
dumping?
think? He was lighting them up in the crowd, like you know, like how Spring Break is with the crowd dispersing, dude wetting
Yeah,
them
man,
in front
wetting
of
it right on the
everybody.
sidewalk,
Bang, bang,
right
South.
on Ocean Drive.
Right.
It was somewhere between the Majestic Hotel
Right.
and Versace Mansion. You know
So
what I'm saying?
that's the same thing that could have happened to this boy.
That's right.
on that
Versace,
ground.
Tekashi, Tekashi.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
So
And I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but when we speak about karmatic implications, this is the same troll who would put out laughing face emojis
Yeah.
over the past few rappers who made transition, no matter if they had beef with him or not. He was the one who decided to be the quote unquote Grim Reaper troll.
He was castigating death.
he didn't even care.
He took it to a further level of what he initially started out as. As he began to decline in his quote unquote
popularity. Right.
Well, he became more of a villain. You know what I mean? He became more of a prisoner of the ego. So now he's a grotesque former image of himself, of his former self.
Right. The troll under the bridge that can't stay the sight of himself.
He don't even want to be seen.
It's crazy, y'all. I read an article where a guy was saying, I think he worked for the federal government. He said he was contacting the feds this morning to make sure that Tekashi has the protection that he needs, being a federal informant. See, people don't know, man. 24-hour security, it hits your pockets.
They do.
You know, you gotta have Jay-Z money. You gotta have T.I. money. You gotta have Snoop money. You gotta have that money, and you gotta have a residual income coming in to just take care of that.
To pay that off.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of these boys be living off of shows. Especially, like Tekashi, they still get their checks from the internet, but it's hefty. So it looks to me like if this wasn't staged, because there are people saying, "Oh man, I think this staged." If this wasn't staged, then this is what I believe. I believe that he's paying security selectively. Like, man, I don't need you today. I'm just going to the gym.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When before he had 24-hour security.
Silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure vented. The times that we living in unprecedented. Silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure vented. The times that we living in unprecedented.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he was having selective security, like not 24 hours.
Right.
When he was in trouble, he had it for 24 hours.
Right.
And it's hefty because I know a boy personally who had 24-hour security, and it was costing him 20 bands a month. Mm-hmm. He was paying 20 bands a month for 5 G's a week. I remember. He said, man, 5 G's a week. It lasted for a minute, but I know it dwindled into his bankroll because he stopped having that security like that.
Now, I was one of the ones who thought it was staged at first, man. I'm like, what's going on? First of all, I'm like, damn, he's slipping like that? Why he at a gym like that? If you're going to go work out, you're going to a private gym, right? Or even, you know what I'm saying? You're going to a gym, a public gym, where anybody can be at by yourself, and all these people hate you like that.
Everybody, they're getting comfortable.
You know what I'm saying?
People getting comfortable.
Yeah, I thought it was staged, you know what I'm saying? But when if you're trying to... Like if I was going to look at the I Ching in a situation like that, I'd probably get like the conflict, inexperience, you know what I'm saying? 33 retreat, you know what I'm saying? Fall back, you know what I mean? But this Tekashi, man, first of all, he ain't dead. They ain't kill him. You understand what I'm saying? So this gonna actually work to benefit him. After he heal up, he gonna be out. He gonna be out of it. Yeah. Oh, he gonna be back at it.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? He gonna turn that into a major bag for him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a troll.
He's a troll.
All he needs is attention, good or bad.
This was. I thought it was some Jesse Smollett stuff. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn. At first, I'm like, yo, But anyway, like I say, man. First of all, I'm like, the dude who hit him, if he ain't Treyway and them cats who he snitched on, I'm like, yo, what's that about? You know
he told you he want to be famous.
He want to be famous.
Yeah.
That's what dudes.
It's about him saying, I'm the first one to get him. You know what I'm saying?
Good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about him getting his following up. Because his following finna go up.
Crashing out.
Yeah.
The mentality behind crashing out.
Somebody got to play the villain, right?
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, it goes so much deeper than that too. I mean, we're
think about
teetering into like nihilism,
right? Because the culture calls for consequence,
right?
The culture calls for, some sort of retribution
at the end.
So if there is a forever tag on you, snitches get stitches, then that's an occupation, right? That's an open occupation. That's a job description for somebody to fill. to say, well, I was the one that gave him these stitches. I'm part of this forever narrative.
Real culture. Let me show you how this whole thing is a nihilistic experiment, and our people, you know, especially our culture, right? They don't even realize how they've been duped. You know what I'm saying? By people who follow a specific type of thought form or, you know, school of thought.
Yeah.
Drill music. I'm just buying time. Somebody gotta die. No, it demands that. It's a Squid Game. It's a Hunger Game. I choose my side by the merch that I buy. But yeah, somebody gotta die soon. It eventually, it has to catch up. Y'all gotta catch them bullets. Not now though. It's all good. But how is this shit gonna end? Right? That's the agreement. That's that. Remember.
Yeah. It's the suspense of the ending that keeps us all engaged. That's life within itself.
Right.
You feel me?
The draw, the reason why it's so sticky, the reason why it's drawn. Do you know that true crime is one of the most stickiest niches in like podcasting and things of that nature? Yes. Right. So true crime is drill music. True crime is the documentaries that Trap Lore and all of them do on real killings. This is real crime. That whole King Von mythos, that's true crime. People are drawn to that. There's a cottage industry of Europeans globally. They be having like Swedish accents.
They do documentaries.
From the Netherlands, right?
On his bodies.
Right, and it's done from the same angle from a National Geographic, quote unquote, Serengeti Predator documentary.
Man, it's crazy you say that because I seen one so cold on Mo 3.
Cold.
And this dude was from over
Super cold, right?
I'm talking about he from overseas.
Super cold. So
I'm like,
I seen the same one.
Right, I seen it too.
It was cold.
Man, I'm from Dallas. The man went through the history of Dallas so cold and went through the sides that these rappers was from.
It's called video essays, right? It's called video essays. We're dealing with skilled storytellers who have the tools that it takes and the training, the classical training, right? These are actual documentary filmmakers who either go to the YouTube University or they already had it on them. And they're unpacking one of the greatest stories inside of pop culture, right? And that is the deaf culture, right?
Facts.
That is the deaf culture.
Facts.
Brought to you by Def Jam, Deaf America, Death Row. You know what I'm talking about? All of these labels who, the heads of these labels, they adhere to a certain quote-unquote school of thought. They adhere to a certain quote-unquote global, right? These are the followers of Nietzsche, or how am I pronouncing it correctly?
A niche. It can still ride. My thing is this, like, if I belong to Universal Records, but Universal also is Universal NBC, and the top rated shows on NBC is nightly news, right? And if it bleeds, it leads on the news. Why it's not gonna bleed and lead in the Universal Entertainment Department, right? And then Universal Studios is down the block, and they got Schwarzenegger in them, right?
Ooh, man, you know
so
what?
why would my model be any different in my entertainment conglomerate if all departments are being fueled by blood?
Listen,
go ahead.
Listen, man, that's, you know what, I'm so glad you brought that up because I just saw a video on TikTok about Michael Jackson, about to buy Universal, about to buy Marvel, bro.
Right, Marvel.
Like had already got the financing for it.
Right.
And as soon as he got the financing for it, here come all the allegations.
Right.
Here come all the lawsuits.
Right.
And while that was going on, they sidelined the deal. And while they were sidelining the deal, Disney
came in and scooped in.
Disney scooped it up and did everything that Michael was talking about doing.
That's right.
Michael
they gave
was
him
talking
their business
about
plan.
theme parks. He was talking about a Marvel channel. If you go back to the Smooth Criminal video, you see Wesley Snipes reading the paper.
Right.
Wesley Snipes was going to be the first Black Panther.
Right.
Yeah.
Before Blade.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Before Blade. But Michael had, you know, like you just said, he wanted to take this Universal conglomerate and do it just like that. But the blood culture.
That's the dangers of telegraphing your you know, your
the
plan.
message,
Yep.
right? And not knowing that
Your
business is
intentions.
war, and not knowing that you're in the war field, you in the war zone,
battlefield,
in the
right.
battlefield, and it's protect your neck or lose it.
Absolutely.
They don't forget that it's war. You do, right?
Yeah, you
so
rocked yourself to sleep.
this nihilistic culture that has claimed many souls, right? That's claiming many lives, that's being applauded and lauded by multi-billion-dollar corporations to continue to debase, to devalue, to demoralize, right? To destroy the fabric of God's children and God's people who have an existence, right? We know why we're here. They don't. They have complete philosophies about this shit don't mean anything. Right?
And they was raised a certain way.
But not only do they have the philosophy, the actions back it up and prove it. So we've become what we despise the most because we adapt that. Now you have our people talking about, I don't want to live no more. You got our people saying that they don't want to procreate. You got our people saying, what is a family? I don't need that. And you have millions of families in your blood. You have our people questioning the quote unquote creation, right? The source, right? Saying, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in nothing. You got our people adapting a Kurt Cobain mentality. Our people adapting the quote unquote aesthetic nihilism is what we call it. So the same thing that the punk rockers were doing by doing what? Debasing themselves. Right?
Yeah, explain it.
Self mutilation and whatnot.
Yeah. Self-sacrifice.
Right? They were into the thought, they were into nihilism. It's all nihilism, right? So now we have that same thing with the Playboys and the Uzis, this rock and roll type of thing.
Silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure bent it. The times that we living in unprecedented. Silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure bent it. The times that we living in unprecedented.
The Circle 7 Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple says, no man or woman liveth alone, for every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing.
That's right.
Which means that in life, the experience of your life is largely a part of other people.
That's right.
Right.
Quantum
But-
entanglement.
Yeah, then how, you know, it translates in a generation that says, you know, let's say the generation that comes after me, them fresh Jordans that I need on my feet, right, have to come by you scratching and buying this jumbo. So we're tethered, but to a situation where I am doing what? Living a fast life in exchange for your slow death.
Right.
Right? That's
Right.
my tethering. When else have we as a people engaged in that level of connection and interaction with people inside of our environment where it was like knowingly and openly, right? I'm going to be dependent on you for my come up, regardless of whether that means your downfall. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah, we are all corded and connected to one another, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think that there's ever really been a continuation of us as a species, as a generation, where it's dog eat dog, and we have totally incorporated, you know what I'm saying, the principles of our captive or our colonizer, where the model of capitalism is, once again, dog eat dog. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get mine, you gotta get yours.
King of the jungle.
Right. The
Right,
Western
shout out to
mind.
MC
Right.
Breed.
The lack mentality, right? Iceman
Yeah.
inheritance.
That
Keep
causes,
it in mind.
that causes a king of the jungle mentality too.
Not just king of the jungle, right?
Now,
'Cause
what I mean by
Explain
that
that,
is,
yeah.
king of the jungle is this:
the hierarchy.
I climb up to the top of the building
Right.
and I pull the ladder up behind myself.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Cause I don't want you to come up there with me.
that's what we
It's,
saying.
it's lonely at the top.
That's
Can only be
Iceman,
one.
It's
right? It
lonely
can
at
only
the
be
top.
one. Iceman inheritance, thinking with a fractal mind, living in lack, right? Because of your environment in which you were raised. DNA responding to environment, not living in abundance, not living where the sun is shining and fruit and everything that you want to eat in your sustenance. You could pick it off of a tree and whatnot. Iceman inheritance, having to kill to eat. Hunter-gatherer, having to go out and kill, living in lack, right? Only
Chasing
being
your
able
food.
chasing your food, so you can't necessarily share it. You don't even have the mentality of in abundance. Gold is not coming up out of the ground. All kind of precious metals is not surrounding you, just in the water, in the stream and whatnot. When you are exposed to that, when you are exposed to colorful flora and fauna and all of this other stuff, when you see the colorful fish, the tropical fish in the sea, and you see the varieties and the beauty. Yeah, you have a mentality more so of abundance than you have of lack.
Yes.
That begins to shape your worldview.
Absolutely.
We're talking about the majority of Americans are of a German descent, right?
Absolutely.
European-wise. So we're talking about their quote-unquote thought leader. We're talking about nobody is trying to give them this type of evaluation. They have the American psycho, right? They have to be diagnosed, hold on, because their worldview, right? The idea of the Superman that Nietzsche introduced, right? Their pursuit towards that. What is transhumanism? What is the Jeff Bezos and all of them talking about living forever and going to other planets? Where did that come from? What does that sound like, right? That is a pursuit that they've always followed and whatnot. But whilst in pursuit of that, they're questioning existence in and of itself. They're questioning God. God is dead.
Malik?
What is one of the greatest examples in the black culture of that Iceman mentality?
In the black culture,
Yeah.
you mean?
What
Crabs
about-
in a barrel?
Clarence Thomas.
Oh, yes.
Justice Clarence Thomas. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
He used affirmative action to get where he at.
Right. And pull
And
the
then
ladder
once he
up.
got where he at, he said, hey, affirmative action
ladder
cripples
down.
black people.
Yeah.
Right.
So he climbed to the top of the building and he pulled the ladder up behind himself.
Right.
Right.
That's one of the greatest examples
Right.
of that. And,
Right.
and that, whether we know it or not, unconsciously, that sparked a reaction further throughout the black community.
Of course it did.
You know?
Of course it did. Because, once again, we're talking about a mass indoctrination into a collective consciousness. It's not a color thing. It's a
class thing.
It's you're in this club now. We're gonna take an oath, maybe a blood oath.
Yeah.
But that oath will bring you further into the fold of this collective consciousness. That has multiple tentacles and arms, thousands of organizations and NGOs and charities, you know what I mean? Like it's all connected to a central consciousness.
And
altruism, right? Nihilism, right? There's all of these different absurdism.
Yeah.
Huh?
And I call
All
it
of the isms.
I call it classism.
Right, but these classisms, racisms, all of them are connected to a source. They have source material. They have master teachers who produce source materials. The Calvinists, the Protestants, the work, you know what I mean? All of this
The Marxist.
Shakespeare's works, the Marxists, nobody is going in. ChatGPT, act as a decoder. Tell me what the fuck does all this shit mean? Nobody is breaking down their quote unquote the corpus of their quote unquote
Philosophy.
the philosophies.
Right. The
Hey,
Right?
philosophical
Their
underpinnings.
philosophical foundations. It's not being disrupted by, we're becoming what we despise the most. We're more so, being sucked into
Stockholm syndrome?
to the bagel, huh?
Stockholm syndrome.
So much so.
And I think
in so many ways.
I think based on what you're saying, that's one of the reasons why the black boule separates themselves from the rest of the black community.
Talk about it. Let's
And
hear
when
it.
I say the black boule, I'm talking about the top 1% of black people who come from families who back in the 1840s and the 1900s they owned a bunch of land. They was the ones who got their 40 acres and a mule.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So they were
the senators.
They were the categorical citizens, because in order to be a senator, you have to be a citizen.
Absolutely.
And in order to be a citizen, you have to be a landowner.
Absolutely.
So they were playing the game, you know what I'm saying,
And
with
they
a full
passed it
deck.
down.
Right, and they passed it down.
That's right.
So if somebody were to put their cards on the table in this game of life called America,
That's right.
and they were able to advance in that game,
Absolutely.
should they have survivor's guilt? Should they have any remorse because they're playing the game at a certain level?
And that's how they look at it.
Which appears to be aspirational. If you look at the carving of the pie, was called the American pie.
Come on, man.
They got a slice that you want. Should it matter how they got there? Or should it matter that they're at a particular place aspirationally that you want to be at? Once you get there, you can frame it and do what you want. But you still out here, you would still follow a Clive Davis for the route that he took.
Come on,
and
man.
you don't know what that entails. But if somebody's boule that quote unquote looks like you, right, and they got to a place aspirationally that you wanted to get to, you feel me? What do you look like pointing the finger and being judgmental about how they act once they on the top of that particular ladder, if you will?
And that's how the black boule feel. They feel like it ain't my fault. It ain't my fault that my great grandfather got his land and did what he was supposed to do, and yours wasn't as fortunate.
Right.
They feel like it ain't my fault. So it ain't my fault that I'm trying to preserve this and not let you people in to destroy what we done built.
Right, and they belong to a collective consciousness. That collective consciousness is reinforced in their schooling, in their fraternal orders. Right? There's a pipeline that they follow.
Come on,
you
man.
You feel me? They take oaths.
They can't even marry a certain way. They can't marry like they want.
Yeah, Eastern Stars. There's an oath that they take.
Mm-hmm.
There is a formula that they're following. Right, and they know, based off of them connecting or plugging into that group consciousness, what their place is, right? So that's why somebody be like, yeah, my grandfather, my uncle, he was one of those people, but he never even talked to me about it. I didn't even know. He didn't even talk to the family. He was in his own world.
I think this is an amazing segue into another conversation that we need to have. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
About relationships.
Yes, sir.
And with that,
let's get it.
We're going to see y'all on the next show.
Silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure been hit. The times that we living in unprecedented.